How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the channel. England has been requested a lot of times on this channel. On paper, they look really strong. England starts on an island with only Scotland and Irish miners nearby, who aren't really a threat. Then we have some provinces in the Europe mainland which we can potentially use to expand there. England also starts with a sizable navy and extra 10% bonus to infantry compatibility. So it sounds like a strong country. However, the main reason England guide is requested so often is because there's an event at the start of the game called Surrender of Main Event, where we fight France. This is an event that will always fire, and fighting France and its allies this early can be fairly challenging. So in this guide, we will look at two different strategies for playing as England. I have done two strategies videos before, and in those videos, one strategy was for beginners and the other for more experienced players. For England though, the two strategies are just different. One of them relies more on RNG, and I call it RNG land strategy, while the second is slightly cheesy and I call it no land in Europe strategy. Before we look at those two strategies, let's quickly go over a disaster event that is common to both, and that's the War of the Roses disaster. The game starts with the disaster ticking since we don't have an heir, and the only way to stop the event early is to get an heir, which as you might know is very RNG dependent. We have two choices really here. We can try to get an heir by doing a lot of royal marriages, as they increase the chance of new heir. In most of my starts, doing 2 to 3 royal marriages produced an heir before the disaster fired, so it is a viable strategy. The problem is then, we are stuck with a 22-year-old 000 king. At least he has tech discount bonus, which is nice, but still, a 000 king even for a few years is pretty bad, and it will mean lagging behind on tech for a long time. The other choice is to not royal marry anyone and let the disaster fire. It's a pretty bad disaster where we will need to fight a lot of strong rebels and will cost us a lot of manpower and ducats. I mean, fighting a disaster is almost never good, but at least we will get a good king sooner and start generating some monarch points. It's really up to you which one you choose. For me personally, despite the 000 king, I would rather have him for a few years than face the disaster. And we can always abdicate the king once the heir turns 15. It costs 50 prestige and 20 legitimacy, but it's worth it in the long run. So I prefer to get a lot of royal marriages so we can increase the chance of new heir. Now that we know more about how to handle the War of Roses event, let's take a look at the two England strategies. We will go through the RNG land strategy very briefly. Basically, you bring your armies to the European mainland and hire mercs to force limit, then ally Aragon and wait for the surrender of main event to fire. Then go to war with France. And if you don't know this, with this event we are the attacker against France, so France can call their allies. And this is first part of the RNG. France starts with Provence as their ally, so they will definitely join in. And then they usually ally one Italian nation, if the RNG is on your side. However, who they ally varies a lot, and sometimes they might end up allying Genoa and Papal State, or Venice, or even Castile, in which case the war becomes very difficult. If we have the ally Aragon though, maybe we can call them in. And that's the second part of the RNG. Aragon will only join in if the desired land in France, which may or may not happen. And if Aragon doesn't join in the war, the chances to win go down significantly. So to summarize, in order to win the war, we need France to not have strong allies, and for Aragon to join the war in promise of land. As you can see, it's very RNG dependent, and the odds of everything going in our favor is low. So that's why the strategy is called the RNG land strategy, and I am not a big fan of it. I mean, you could just decline to go to war during surrender of main event and take the stab hit, but we have a better strategy for playing England, and that's the no land in Europe strategy. This one is inspired by Arumba's play. I remember when Rule Britannia came out, I was watching his stream and he used this strategy, and it worked great. I'm sure everyone here knows who Arumba is, but in case you don't, I will leave a link in the description to his channel, and I'll also leave a link to his England guide with this strategy. For my guide, I have tweaked the strategy a little bit, and it works even better. Let's go through it step by step and see how it works. We'll start by hiring advisors. England has an excellent economy at the start, and we can afford advisors. For admin, there's a scripted national unrest advisor who is half price, so definitely hire him. Similarly for Diplo, there's a scripted advisor too, so hire the Diplo rep guy here. And for military, a morale or discipline guy is great if you can get it, just don't hire a manpower modifier guy. Next we will set the rivals. For start we will set France and Scotland as rivals. You can take the third one as Denmark, but I left it open for now, just in case there are some diplomacy changes in near future. Next, let's look at the estates. England doesn't have a nobility estate, we only have burgher and clergy. The intention is to take 150 monarch points from them, so we will start with clergy. First send emissary to Pope, then recruit inquisitor, seek support of clergy, and then demand admin points. For burghers, first grant admiral, then recruit minister and grant monopoly charters. Then we will demand the diplo points. So now we have some admin points and diplo points, which is nice. But what we really want is military points, so we can get that next military tech sooner for easier wars. So we will set the national focus to military for now. We can also spend the 10 papal influence we just got from clergy for a chance to become the curia controller. We got an admiral from burghers, which is nice. We can also make our useless king as a general. There is a chance he might get siege pips, which would be nice, and he might actually die while leading an army, which would be even nicer. Now we put the two generals in charge of the two armies and march them to Scotland border. Then put admiral in charge of the light ships and protect trade in English node. You should also give parliament seats to two provinces and then start debate on a perk you might want. We will come back to the parliament mechanic at the end of this guide. We will also ally Aragon at this point, and Aragon will almost always be available as an ally. And now is the time for that cheesy strategy. England has a unique and actually quite fun mission tree. The first mission here is levy the troops, which needs us to build to force limit and have 60% manpower. And if we can get it done, we get claims all over Ireland and a subjugation CB over Scotland. That sounds great. We can just hire mercs to get to the force limit, but getting that manpower quickly is an issue. We don't have the nobility state, so we can't demand manpower from them. We also don't have any professionalism, and we don't have any military points to get that professionalism high, so we can't get manpower from there either. So instead of raising our current manpower to 60% of maximum, we can decrease the maximum manpower, and we can do that by releasing vassals. We will release two vassals, Gascony, who gets these two provinces, and Normandy, who gets all these provinces. We will also give Normandy the two provinces next to them, including the province of Maine. And if Maine is not owned by England directly, the surrender of Maine event does not fire. For you warmongers out there who are disappointed that you won't be fighting France soon, don't worry, we will still fight France. At this point, put one of the advisors on improving relations with subjects and royal marry them as soon as possible. Now we have given away all our provinces in the Europe mainland except for Calais. I like to keep it for myself. It's a high development province with a lot of money, and it's not necessary to give it away. You will also notice that clergy are suddenly disloyal. That's because we just gave away a province that was controlled by clergy to our new vassal. But they are only at 39.1% loyal, so they will become loyal again in just 9 months. Clergy also controls Calais, and that's another reason to not give away Calais, as that would make clergy really unhappy. Now if we look at our army force limit, it has gone down, which means we only need to hire 3 mercs to get to force limit. By the way, our naval force limit also went down, which means we are paying some extra money, but that's fine. More importantly, our maximum manpower has also gone down. So now we only need close to 14,000 manpower to complete the mission. And we will get that by exploiting the provinces. Yes, I know it feels dirty to exploit your own people, but sacrifices must be made for the greater good. Just exploit the top provinces till you get to 60% manpower, which you should get from 8 or 9 provinces. And just like that, we have completed the mission. And now we have the CB on Scotland, and so we are going to declare on them. But France will come to their rescue, which means our new vassals would be in trouble. So what we will do is enable scutage on the vassals. This gives us 50% more money from them while they are not called into wars. Really a win-win situation for everyone at this point. Well, except for Scotland, but we don't care about them. Scotland might also have a minor Irish ally, which isn't a problem. Once we declare war, we will start sieging down the nearest fort, and Scottish army will most likely move to Pale to siege that down. Let them move, and once they have crossed over to Ireland, we will put some of our navy to block the strait. And now we can freely siege the whole Scotland without any distractions. Just keep an eye on the French transports and make sure they don't land. English navy is far superior and the AI is not going to fight it. Once we are at war with France, it completes another mission, the 100 Years' War. While we are busy in Scotland, France will siege down Calais, which is fine. We are going to eventually unsiege it once we are done with Scotland, then ask for access from Burgundy if you don't already have it, and go directly to Paris. Don't worry about any other provinces, and don't split your army. Paris is only a level 1 fort, so the siege won't take long, and once you have it, it completes another mission and gives a restoration of Union CB on France. We will just white peace France for now, and then we will take Scotland as a vassal and take the outer and inner Hebrides Islands for ourselves. And peace out Scotland. This completes another mission and gives claims on the North Atlantic Islands. Now Scotland will be disloyal, so start improving relations with them. And the other two subjects should be okay if you have been improving relations with them during this time. And so it's only been 3 years in game and we already have Scotland as a vassal, which is huge tactically because now you don't have to watch your back while you're fighting a war in Europe mainland or Ireland. We have a 5-year truce with France now, so we will start conquering Ireland instead. And who you attack will depend on the diplomacy there, so let's go through my game and see how that turned out. The Irish miners really don't stand a chance against England, so these wars will be quick. I first attacked Ulster, who were allied to Desmond and Sligo. I co-belligerent both of them and declared war. It was a quick war and I full annexed all 3 of them. Then I immediately attacked Leinster, who were allied to Offaly and Munster. Again, the war will be easy and you can just take over all of Ireland this way. The limiting factor is the aggressive expansion, and it is a big factor which you have to look out for. So at this point, I recommend just sitting on the 100% war score and not peacing out till the call for peace comes in. I kept declaring wars on other Irish miners and full siege them, but I didn't peace them out just yet. This gives AE a chance to cool down a bit. This is also a great time to put one of the advisors on improving relations with outraged countries. And keep investing the papal influence in becoming the Curia controller. It really helps with AE along with some great other bonuses. Also keep a lookout for an improved relations advisor, that will help too. Soon the truce with France will expire and now you might be tempted to attack them, especially if they are involved in another war. But remember, the aim for that war is to bring France under PU, which means a huge amount of aggressive expansion. So my advice is to wait a little longer. You can try to go to war and force France under PU, and even Aragon might join on your side, but the result will look something like this. That amount of aggressive expansion is not sustainable. It's a recipe for a huge coalition and you will likely lose that war. And you will also likely get excommunicated if you are not already Curia controller, compounding the problem even further. Getting back to my game, luckily I became the papal controller, which has some amazing perks. I slowly pieced out the Irish miners one by one. The reason I like to attack them all at once is so that they don't get a chance to ally someone big or join a coalition. In my game, I went slow and got them all by 1458. Clanricarde proved to be the only smarter one who had allied Denmark. The area was very manageable, and I kept 2 of my diplomats at improving relations with outraged countries. After a couple of more years, it was finally time to take the last province in Ireland. So I attacked Clanricarde, which meant fighting Denmark. We have the naval supremacy, so the war isn't hard at all. I managed to take Iceland from Norway and peace them out, and finally all of Ireland was mine in 1465. This also completes another mission, and still AE was looking okay. That's when I noticed that France was fighting Burgundy, so it was definitely time to attack France. Before that I had allied Austria, which meant going above relation limit even more, but that's fine. We will get a lot of AE from France war, so it's good to have strong allies to deter coalitions from attacking. And so I declared on France and called in Aragon. Only Genoa would join the war on their side, and we were doing really well. But then the Iberian wedding fired 2 years into the war, and now it was just me against France and Genoa. I pieced out Genoa eventually, then finally in 1468 I forced union on France. It only takes 60 war score to do it, so it's not that hard. One thing you can min-max here is the prestige. This peace deal will give you a lot of prestige, and prestige caps at 100. So you could use some of your existing prestige to placate rulers on Scotland or other vassals, just so you don't waste it. In my game, France were still fighting Burgundy, so now I was fighting them as well. The war screen said that I was the war leader, but after a couple of months, the war just ended in a draw as Austria enforced peace on Burgundy. So now I had France under PU and AE was not that bad, considering the amount of territory I just gained. I immediately started improving relations with France obviously, and I also started diplo-annexing Gascony. So 1468, England isn't looking too bad. I have all of Ireland, and I haven't lost any of my European cores. Then I have Scotland as a vassal and France as a PU subject, with Portugal and Austria as allies. With all these wars, I was hoping the king would die in some battle or siege, but he did not. So I finally decided to abdicate him. And immediately after, I got the War of Roses event that gives minus 50% new heir chance, and the disaster starts ticking again. But I got an heir fairly soon who had great stats at 546. Now I wanted to cut down Denmark even more, so I supported Sweden's independence and was called into war very soon. During the course of this war, the annexation of Gascony was completed, and after enabling support loyalists in France, all my vassals were now loyal. The Denmark War ended in 1481 with Sweden now independent. After this, I attacked Brittany. When I saw that their allies won't join in, Castile just had the Civil War fire and they were fighting Granada earlier, so they were in a lot of debt. I took all of Brittany for myself. It meant more AE, but again it was very manageable. Next, I decided to start diplo-annexing Normandy, while my king decided to die a little too early at the age of 29. So now I had a queen consort regent. Now I was just waiting for the AE to come down again and looking for PU opportunities while waiting around. That's when I saw that Brandenburg's king was 74 years old with no heir. And at his death, there would be a succession war between Denmark and Saxony. Great! I started improving relations with Brandenburg so I could royal marry them. After which, the tooltip changed to a succession war between England and Saxony. This was a war I could easily win, so it was just a matter of waiting for the old king to die and hoping he doesn't spawn an heir before that. I didn't have anything else to do, so I kept checking their diplomacy screen. The king went on to be 75 years old, then 76, then 77, then 78, then 79, and he finally died in 1493. By this time, the tooltip had changed to a succession war between England and Denmark did not contest the PU, so now Brandenburg was my PU subject as well. During this time, I converted to Protestant, which caused some opinion malices, but it wasn't anything serious. The main problem was that converting to Protestant meant minus 100 prestige, so now I had minus 50 prestige, which meant more liberty desire in my PU subjects. After waiting for a few more years, I figured AE had come down enough and was looking to attack Denmark again. That's when I noticed that Norway was not a subject of Denmark anymore, so I attacked Norway instead. The war was super easy and I made them my vassal, so I could use their cores to declare on Sweden in future. I had dissolved my alliance with Sweden earlier. The annexation of Normie was finished as well, so in 1501, I was in a very powerful position. The next obvious target would be Castile or Burgundy or maybe Savoy. And that's the first 50 years or so with England. With this start, we have a loyal Scotland and loyal France under you, and we never had to face any coalitions. After this, you can farm the Great Britain at Admin Tech 10 if you want. You can also start colonizing soon. I usually start with exploration ideas for England, although you need a colonial diplo advisor to get the colony going in Greenland early. Or you can take land from Castile in the south and start colonizing in Africa and South America. I would also consider breaking the Portugal alliance at some point, taking some provinces from them and eventually making them a vassal, which would mean all of New World is ours. It is obviously a very strong start and you can expand in any direction you want from here. Let's quickly look at the Parliament mechanic as they give you some nice bonuses when playing England. Parliament needs to have a certain number of seats depending on size of the nation. Giving a seat to a province gives some bonuses to manpower, sailors, tax, and production efficiency. So I like to assign provinces with high development to Parliament, even though they get events which might decrease the development later. The province has to be a full core and it cannot be part of an estate. You should start a debate whenever you can because there's 0.1 yearly corruption if you don't have a debate going or a policy enacted. Also make sure that policy Parliament is debating on is enacted. You can do this by giving a small amount of perks to the seats in Parliament. It's not a big deal as some of the policies are actually quite good. Like this one I got when I converted to Protestant. The extra missionary and missionary strength is very helpful. and giving away 10 Diplo power or 25% autonomy for the province is totally worth it. And that is my guide for playing the first 50 years as England. The start can be a bit tricky because of events, but the English mission tree is super strong and really helps with expansion. Add the strong navy to that, along with potential for early colonization, it makes England really overpowered, especially with the strategy that we discussed here. I hope this guide helps some EU4 players achieve great things with England. Let us know how your game progressed, either in comments or in our Discord channel. You are watching a Radio Rush guide. God save the Queen, and I'll see you all in the next one.